Hey everybody, it's your buddy Bear Pigman here, doing the first of these little vlog updates for my channel. I didn't really plan on ever doing vlogs or video updates, but I got stuff I really want to talk about that I don't find time to talk about in streams or videos like that, so I figured, fuck it, I'll make a little vlog every so often about topics I really love and really want to get the word out on. You're obviously at my YouTube channel because you want to hear me talk about shit, so you know what? This is just me giving you what you want, even if I don't know why you want what you want. So, if you click that link, you're obviously here because you want to hear me talk about the GDQs, and man, I fucking love the GDQs. For those of you who don't know, I don't know why you wouldn't know if you clicked on this, but fuck it. Games Done Quick is a marathon of speedrunning that's now a week-long each way. There's one in the winter and one in the summer. Awesome Games Done Quick is done in January and goes to the Prevent Cancer Foundation. Summer Games Done Quick is done in, obviously, the summer, and it goes to Doctors Without Borders. Last week was Summer Games Done Quick 2016. So, I've known about the GDQs for years now, because if I'm playing a game and I want to see, like, how the fuck can someone beat Dark Souls in 2 hours, let alone, like, 20 minutes, I'll look up Dark Souls speedrun, and the first thing I'll see is the GDQ event from 2013. So I've known about these for a while. It wasn't until January 2015 that I actually kind of turned it on and watched the entire marathon. I fell in love with them. You know, I love doing charity streams, I love giving to charity. I think it's one of the best things about the gaming community, so I'm a big fan of that to begin with. But particularly, the GDQs are something special for me because they kind of brought back this old nostalgic feeling for me. As many of you know, I'm a convention goer. I've been going to cons since 2008. One of the greatest parts for me of going to conventions when I was younger, going to conventions for the first time, was that feeling of having something to do at any hour of the day. I would go to a convention, and especially if it's taking place in the hotel, you know, that you're staying at. So you're staying at the hotel the convention's taking place in. You could go at 4 o'clock in the morning, and you don't even care about what panels they're going to. It's may not something you even like give a fuck about or would normally go see, but you're like, fuck it, it's 3 in the morning, there's nothing else to do anyway, I'm already drunk, I'm gonna go check out this panel, even though I know nothing about it, or I'm gonna go downstairs and sit at a table and just fucking play a card game a friend of mine brought. It's just that experience of being able to kind of, well, no matter what you're doing, you can get up, walk out of your room, and just find an adventure, find something new. That was my favorite part of convention going. It still is. If you catch me at a convention, you'll catch me roaming the floor, probably drunk, at, you know, fucking 4 or 5 in the morning, and talking, and meeting new people, and just bullshitting around. But I love that feeling. And in 2015, when I first watched my first SGDQ, that was the experience that really just nailed it for me. That feeling of just like being able to, you know, turn on the TV, pop Twitch onto my Chromecast, and just like, hey, I never heard of a game like Magical Poppin' before. This guy's been running it for 5 minutes, I'm gonna find out what this is. Or, hey, this game, I never knew about this one, I wanna see what this game's all about. No matter what I was doing, even if it's like 4 in the morning and I'm having trouble sleeping, I'll just like pop it on my phone for a bit and just watch 5 minutes of someone running, you know, a PC shooter, a Doom clone I've never heard about. But no matter what game a person was running, they were all really excited about it and really getting into it. And that's kind of something that I feel is my favorite part of speedrunning. Because if you watch someone's world record attempt, they've run this game, you know, 50 times that week. Probably more if it's a short game. But they've explained themselves dry years ago running this game. So they're not going to be explaining every single trick they're doing or why they run it in that run. But if you turn on a GDQ event for that, either them or their couch are going to be running the game and explaining why they like it so much. And if it's like a game that I really care about, like Earthbound Illusion of Gaia or something like that, I really want to hear, like, I think of the runner Carcinogen who does Resident Evil. He explains in like flawless detail everything he does to make that run great. And it makes me, as a Resident Evil fan, appreciate the run that much more. I had that experience. I found out about so many new games I never knew about. I found out about so many, sleeper titles or games I wanted to stream or games that I'm like, hey, you know what, I heard about this, but now I really want to get into it. Just that feeling of being able to turn it on and just see what's playing was just heaven for me. It was my favorite part about it. And every other Games Done Quick that's followed it has tried to recapture that experience. That year was, I think it's still their highest donated total. It was somewhere in the range of 1.35 to 1.5. I forget what that exact number is. I'll probably have it right here with a little bit of, movie magic right here. So that was the biggest total that they've hit so far. And it seems like after that year, they've been trying to recapture a lot of that. But with it being a bigger event, it also kind of ran into problems here and there. And the other years have been great too, don't get me wrong. Summer 2015 and Awesome 2016 were all really good too, but I felt like they were trying to make a lot of big name events happen. Like kicking off the marathon with the Yoshi's Island 100% run, which is one of the most well-known speed runs out there. And an amazing run, don't get me wrong. Tri-X is a fucking god, but it was a lot of big events like that, and not a lot of even the indie blocks for these weren't all that amazing. They were good, but they were, I didn't have kind of the same experience. It felt like they reran a lot of popular things from the year before, which, I will watch Big John play any game at any time. Do not get me wrong. But it felt like they were just trying to okay, well, let's hit this 120-star run. Let's just hit all of our save zones to try and make a total bigger than last year. And while it was good, it didn't have that same spirit. Except for a couple of things. A couple of things from those years were just phenomenal. The Tetris Tetris people are always just a treat to watch. Witwick's nails the Boshi runs always. But this was the first year. Now we're getting into the one that just finished, 2016 Summer Games Done Quick. This event was phenomenal. It captured what I think made the GDQs magical for me, made them special for me. And it was that there was a lot more games. Now the, Summer 2015 and Awesome 2016 had a lot of longer runs and a lot of 2 to 3 hour runs. This, most runs that were 20 to 40 minutes. I think there were maybe a couple that went over an hour, and maybe 5 that went over 3 hours. So when you have a lot more smaller games, you're getting a lot more people who are just excited to run and willing to run and come out and explain. The indie block this year was half a day, and they mashed so many games in there, and they were all great. They were all wonderful. They put a lot of runs in this year of games that they've never run in the past, and these events that are famous for having cringe moments, especially I'm thinking back to Summer Games 2015 with the Crash 2 runner. There were not that many cringe moments this year, which is an amazing thing. Really hard thing to believe. I can think of maybe 1 or 2 real cringy runs at that, but for the most part, these were just people who were my favorite kind of runners, which are not technically the best runners in the world, but they were people who are charming and excited to talk about the game that they love. You had so few people who were like, oh yeah, I run this game, but I fucking hate it. I'm just here to get a world record on stream. You had people who just genuinely, even the fucking Sonic 06 runner loved Sonic 06 in a way that only a speedrunner could. Because I'll agree with him, it's a terrible game, but it makes for an entertaining speedrun. Mostly because all the things that make that game a piece of shit either make you go through the game faster, or you completely ignore them by basically going over the entire stage. So, in any case, I got the list of them up here. I'm gonna take a quick look through them and see if there's anything that highlighted for me, highlights this marathon for me. And give a couple of shout-outs to a couple of runners right here. So, the marathon began with one of my favorite games, Mario Sunshine, which I think that's, it's one of my favorite Mario games overall. I think they kicked it off last year with Splatoon, the year before that with Wario Land and Yoshi's Island. Kicking it off with a good, happy, fun time. Like, what the hell says summer better than Mario Sunshine? This marathon had, in my opinion, one of the best first days it's ever had. Obviously, the last Summer Games first day got a little fucked up because of Crash, but you can't prepare for something like that, right? On this first day, you had things like a really good Demon Souls run, which, they've done Bloodborne, they've done Dark Souls. I think they were just almost there to get Dark Souls 3 in, but I could see why they didn't do it. But I thought Demon Souls was a really good, if they couldn't go Dark Souls 3, Demon Souls was a great run instead. And it was, again, barely over an hour, so yeah, kind of fit the time budget perfectly, too. So you had staple runs like Metroid Prime and Tropical Freeze, which is a great DKC game to run. You also had a Link Between Worlds, which, as someone who's watched nearly every Link to the Past category, seeing the Link Between Worlds run is like to me, it's like it might as well just be an extension of Link to the Past. I love that game, and I love the run of it too. A perfect example of what I was talking about before, which you don't have to technically be the best runner, but if you're entertaining or charming, people won't care. I'm looking at the new Super Mario Bros. Run, where the guy got fireworks. This event, by the way, if anyone didn't know, this event took place during 4th of July weekend. So this guy kicked it off by basically going, it's 4th of July now in a couple of time zones, so I'm going to go get fireworks at the end of every stage, even if it costs me a couple of seconds to wait for the timer on the clock to mix up. I'm going to go get fireworks. And sure enough, after doing that 3 or 4 times, people were cheering, and 1, 2, 3, 4, they were clapping for every firework that came out. That's awesome. That's the kind of thing that gets a crowd hype, gets people excited for a run. That's what a runner should be doing. That's good shit. I love to see more from runners like that, and I got to see more from runners like that, and that's fantastic stuff. Unfortunately, following that was the new Super Mario Bros. 2 run, which I feel really bad for the runner. Her battery on her 3DS, or DS, I forget which one they actually used, the battery on it died. She had to wait for a charger to finish her run. Thankfully, she managed to save. It wasn't a ridiculous time loss. Man, that's still a terrible thing to have happen, even if it was kind of funny. That's the kind of thing where, like, it's marathon luck, but it's marathon fun, too. And she took it in stride, she laughed about it. It was funny, I liked it. I had a genuine fun time watching that. Unfortunately, one thing I did not get a chance to watch before this video, the silly games done quick, or in the winter, the awful games done quick. It's like one of my favorite blogs, but it's always at like 4 in the morning, and I work. I'm a working man. So I unfortunately couldn't check that out. I will be watching those soon. Those are always a blast, though. The awful games and silly games community are some of the nicest people, funniest people. They're just genuinely there to goof on a couple of games, and there's strangely some fun tactical stuff that goes into routing these silly, bad games. I always recommend checking them out. They're like one of my favorite parts of the marathon, for sure. Because who doesn't want to know what a game like Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, or Ed, Ed and Eddie, or Crystal's Ponytail, you want to see that strat. You want to see that sick tech right there. That's the good shit. That's the shit you're here for. That's the shit Doctors Without Borders is here for. A couple of really good races this year. Not as many as I thought. Especially a couple of years before, they did races for like everything they could. This time around, there was only like a couple of races. A Spyro race, Mario race at the end, a Goonies race I think was one of them. But it wasn't like an overabundance of them like another marathon, so I thought that was a pretty nice thing too. Gives the runners a better chance to explain stuff, so you're not constantly looking between two screens going, who do I look at, who do I root for, who do I look at, who do I root for. It was nice seeing Link's Awakening played at a marathon. Again, I love Link to the Past runs, but they've done every fucking category of Link to the Past in the past, like, 4 marathons. So it was nice seeing something like Link's Awakening, Four Swords, Link Between Worlds. It was nice seeing those games get runs instead. The Bioshock run was pretty cool, even though it was kind of shitty that a donation incentive that was, people paid for, couldn't be met because the runner had to use a safety save and couldn't back it up. Things like that happened a couple of times where it was just kind of like, oh, well, you guys donated for it, but I get why they did it, because it would just add more time to the marathon to do it another way, but It's still unfortunate. I will give props to the guy, though. He did do a pretty funny thing of putting a fake Windows 10 update in the middle of it, and I completely fell for it. I didn't find out it was a goof until a couple of days later, but that was pretty funny. Good on him. Of course, when we're talking games done quick, we gotta talk about the Castlevania block, and they did a couple of great ones this year. They did 64, which actually made for a pretty damn entertaining run. They did Aria of Sorrow, Dawn of Sorrow, Dracula X, but the big event, the one that people came here for, was Romscout doing Blindfolded, Symphony of the Night, and watching the tech and mapping that guy did to make sure that he was going in the right place at the right time and following the exact timed amount of backdashes. He knows the layout of that game inside and out to a frightening degree, and it was just a really entertaining run to see. Unfortunately, as you may or may not know, he did have a controller glitch. I still don't really know exactly what happened, but apparently a trigger that he planned into for the controller just didn't work on the particular screen that he went to go use it on. So that took what could have been a 40-minute run, ended up becoming over an hour. But you know what? It was still really entertaining to see him, because he fought. He fought to try and get that done without any assistance before going to people for help. And it was still just really interesting seeing that, when a person plays a blindfold game, and they do a lot of blindfolded runs on GDQs. I think it's really cool stuff, for that. You think to yourself, like, oh man, I don't know what it would be like to do Punch-Out blindfolded or anything like that. To see him talking about, like, the menuing and stuff, and realize it's not just, movement, it's not just movement tech, it's not just audio cues, but the amount of knowledge he needs to go into that menuing and all the possibilities that could be. Man, that's just super fucking interesting stuff, and there's a reason why he's the king of that game, and will always be the king of that game. It was great seeing a couple of the indie games I really love, like Guacamelee and Dust Wars and Freedom Planet. All fantastic games, all ones that you should be checking out and buying if you haven't already. Guacamelee in particular holds a really important place in my heart. It's a fucking Metroidvania that's based on melee combat. How the fuck could I not love that? A lot of interesting games. A couple of games made by Team Meat before they did Super Meat Boy. So I think they did Jumper 2, they did Celeste, had to go up real close for there, check that out. But it was a couple of, like, cool predecessors going to the Meat Boy run, which was also impressive as all hell. Why would it not be? Alright, big one here, Momodoro one-handed run. Half Coordinated is skilled as all hell, and he's been doing a lot of one-handed runs. He's a gamer with disabilities and wants to, in addition to showing off the unbelievable skill he's got in games like Vanquish, Momodora, he wants to do these runs one-handed to show, show what disabled gamers can do. And this time he finished the run fantastically. Great time. He was able to give a really nice, heartfelt speech about what the community means to him. And I recommend, if I'm going to give a list of recommended runs for people to check out. That one is definitely, make sure you watch that speech at the end. It had me choked up. That really did. It was heartfelt stuff, and I let him know on Twitter. He's a really great guy. It was nice to see two of my favorite games run back-to-back, Silent Hill 3 and Resident Evil 2. And especially for Resident Evil 2, the Leon B scenario. Because I always see the A scenarios get run all the time. I rarely ever see the B scenario speed run, so seeing that was a really cool thing. Bok Basoup, yeah, you did a fantastic job. Paid those games real great service. 64 block was pretty cool. Bomberman 64, DK 64, Mario 64 DS, which was an interesting title because, we've seen 64 speedrun to all hell and back. It ended up being the finale as well, but I had never seen the DS version speedrun of that. And it was really interesting to hear him describe the differences between speedrunning that versus speedrunning the 64. Sonic block again, I talked about that earlier, but the Sonic 06 run was a lot of fun. Running into a glitch that not even Darkspine Sonic, who's found every fucking glitch in that game, it was one he's never even seen either. So, they discovered shit in that game that even the experts in that game have never fucking heard about. So, props to that. That was really cool to see. Disney Run was phenomenal. John Carl's doing The Little Mermaid and wooing everybody with that beautiful singing voice, man. It's always a treat to hear him sing. And I know people rip on the singing donations, but once he started singing, people were like, holy shit. No, I'm thinking about keep him singing, it's good stuff. They got a couple of really good. I know one of the women in Games Done Quick is a opera singer, and she usually sings a lot of stuff for the Disney block. I think she did part of the Aladdin run too, which, man, yeah, it's a treat hearing that stuff. There was the Doom run, the Ultimate Doom run, which I did not. That one thing I will say about this marathon that I wasn't crazy about was normally when the marathon starts, they have all the incentives, donation incentives laid out there. So, like, alright, I gotta donate X amount to this one or X amount to this one to get it done. So you have a lot more people who kind of like, if they want to see something get run or a donation name get made, they can donate to that early on so that goal is met, so that no donation incentive should ever not be run. But it kind of feels like they added a lot of them on the fly, like I think $20,000 to get a Doom run in, which so many times throughout this marathon I was like, there's no fucking way they're gonna get that in time, and shut my mouth because they fucking did. They did that for the Mario 64 run at the end. The Judge Dredd run co-op run was great. You just had a guy like fucking shooting I am the law into the wall while his friend's taking care of all the other killing, which stuff like that. Again, it doesn't save anything on tech, and it's not optimal speedrunning strat, but you're having so much fucking fun watching it. Who the hell cares? So now we're getting into one of my favorite ones right here, Jak and Daxter. My favorite fucking run of the marathon. Might have been my favorite run of any Games Done Quick. There is almost nothing I can do to explain it or prepare you for it. All I can say is that the run started at 2 o'clock in the morning, and it featured a slap-happy Canadian who I think he's gotten maybe 4 hours of sleep in the past 3 days. So I'm half asleep because I've been up watching these marathons. He's half asleep because he's been up practicing for these marathons, and he's messing up left and right, but oh my god, him and his couch were so fucking funny that nobody cared. I recommend just have a beer to get a little tipsy, get a little sleepy, get a little silly, watch it. It's like 2 hours long. It's the best run of the marathon. I guarantee you, you will not be upset. You will enjoy it. One of my favorite games got a run in Illusion. A guy got a 100% run by Puexel. That game is one of my favorites. You've probably seen me either stream it or do an LP of it. Check that game out. It's next to Earthbound, my favorite. Graham Tetris people, I think it's gonna be the last time they're doing Tetris at an event like this, because they've done it 4 events in a row now, and even though it's the same thing and it's basically just like an hour-and-a-half block of just them doing the same thing over and over, their commentary is so good. I think it make the block 4 hours long, and I would watch intently. Speaking of that, by the way, there was a Catherine run on day 1 that I forgot to talk about. That was also phenomenal. One person with 2 controllers doing the hardest mode in Catherine by himself, basically, and oh my god, it's the same. If you like the Tetris runs, you will love that run. It's that same kind of like stand back and watch in awe. And Catherine's one of my favorite games to begin with, so watch that run. It's really good. If you're a fan of the Elder Scrolls, they did a pretty cool thing. They did all 5 games in a row. They did Arena, Daggerfall, Morrowind, Oblivion Run, Skyrim, one after another. That was cool. It was cool to see all of them run, back to back to back to back to back. And especially if you don't know much about Arena and Daggerfall, they're not that good. It's interesting to at least see them, so you don't have to play them yourself and fuck with the DOS box and shit like that. Prior to Fallout 4, they did a Trials run. Actually, that was before the Elder Scrolls block they did a Trials run, which was right after Tetris, and man, Trials is a great game, and the people who ran it are talented as fuck, but you gotta cut that down to about a half hour. You did that for like an hour and a half, and it would have been great, except for the fact that the people commentating on it stopped talking 5 minutes into a 90-minute run. You can't do that. Cut it down to the last 30 minutes of impressive levels. I guarantee you, even though we didn't have the build-up, we're still gonna be impressed, and it's gonna move shit along a lot faster. It kinda killed the Tetris momentum. And you don't want to kill the Tetris momentum. You need the Tetris momentum going. But, Fallout 4, I love the run. Only problem I had with it was that they did, shout out to the boys at Monster Factory. They made the character name, the Final Pam. Didn't even choose the female avatar. I mean, come on. I get that you couldn't make the Final Pam. You'd have to probably contact the McElroy brothers or Warlock to get the Final Pam done. It was still an entertaining run, still fun. The Game Boy block, which was one of the first times I think I've ever seen a Game Boy block specifically be put in a marathon, was really interesting. I'm a huge fan of just what the Game Boy meant to gaming in general, in that it was the first time in Nintendo's history that it was both moving ahead of the current generation by making, 16-bit SNES plus the NES, but it was also taking a step back by, trying to develop games for the Game Boy. And so seeing Proto Magical Girl, she fucking destroyed that block. She owned that, and it was really cool seeing her do basically like her own mini marathon of these games, also giving really cool commentary on Task Block later on in the day. Super Mario World, I gotta give props to the 15-year-old kid who did a low percent run. That means no cape, no Yoshi, small Mario the whole way, and knocked the fuck out of it. All swag moves, annihilated shit. And not only did he annihilate shit, I think he died one time, but he brought his fucking Nana on his couch. Oh man, that was the cutest shit ever, and fuck me, that was just awesome. Of course, the Mario Maker relay race, I think that was a really good idea they made this year of, when a stage is beat, everyone just moves on to the next one, so you're not stuck on one level for, 20 minutes. Maybe like a bunch of Mario runners who don't want to do a full run this year because they've just done it so many times. I think it's a cool way to kind of bring out a lot of the big names in Mario and platforming speedrunning, while also keeping things fresh every year. You can make this a mainstay. The best people in the world are going to make stages for it and bring them to this. And that's just a really good hour-and-a-half exhibition just in general. And it led up into the big run of the night, my boy Pepsi Man. Making Pepsi Man one of the focus runs of this event kind of symbolized to me what this year meant. They made a weird game, and Pepsi Man's a fucking weird game and I love the shit out of it, but they made a weird game one of the big ones of this marathon. It was just a fucking blast to watch, but that crowd was so fucking hyped, and even having a guy in a Zentai suit dressed as Pepsi Man was just like the icing on the cake. I want more runs like that. That was a fucking phenomenal run. And then on the final day, you had stuff like my boy Rip Killa, who was involved in maybe my other favorite GDQ run of all time, the Mario No Cape All Switches race, and the Mario Lunar Dragon run of 2014. The man in the yellow hat himself, the man with the WAP. It was really cool seeing Rib do a run and stuff, even if he got sniped at the last second from that race itself. Then you had fun stuff like Typing of the Dead, which, Typing of the Dead is like, to me, it's Sega at their weirdest, and it's fucking wonderful. The Pokemon runs right into TaskBot, just kind of showcase, just call it like a glitch showcase in and of itself, because man, it's just so cool to see TaskBot do their thing, and I thought nearly everything they brought this year was phenomenal. Mario Land 2, seeing how they symbolize data and shit in that by having a literal, column of blocks, cool shit right there. And a series of inputs that'll beat any Mario game that you put in. It'll beat World, it'll beat Lost Levels, it'll beat 1, it'll beat 3. Putting all those side by side was also really cool too. And then of course we got the last couple of runs of the night, the Super Metroid race, which that showed for the first time just the danger people put themselves in by racing that game. I felt really bad for Oats and Goats there, who was on almost world record pace before dying at the last second to Mother Brain, so that was really sad, but it certainly kept the race interesting, didn't it? Then, of course, came two of my favorite runs at the end. You had the Super Mario RPG race, which was also, I don't know why I said race, because it wasn't a race for the game, it was a race against time to get that donation total in. They wanted to break last year's donation total to get another Mario 64 race in, and they blew the fuck out of it at the last minute. Oh, that was some good shit. But Mario RPG is always one of my favorite games to see speedrun because it's a combination of those good-ass RPG tactics and good-ass platforming tactics. So seeing that shit is always a highlight of the marathon. Plus you get really swag things like the 100 super jumps, which are just fucking mind-blowing to begin with. But having that be the end game of the marathon, I thought was really good. Maybe someday we'll see Earthbound be the end RPG of the marathon. And for those of you who don't know, the reason why they like to make an RPG the last game of the marathon is because it runs long, they get to keep the donation tracker open longer, and they get a couple, last minute real big squeezes. And they did! So, of course, they got to end the event with the Mario 64 race, which between the final music of Mario RPG and the ending music of 64, just left the event on such a high note. But it was the first time in such a long time that I was able to turn on one of these Games Done Quick marathons and just catch a weird game I've never heard about being run, or a game that I've seen people play but never played myself, like Momodora. Or, it left me with seeing people talk about games that they love really happily, and left me with a bunch of games I wanted to play myself or stream myself. That to me is what this event should be all about. Not to mention, they raised almost $1.3 million for charity, so holy shit. So I'm hoping that the next GDQ, which I'm going to try and attend myself, is actually going to be about 15 minutes away from MagFest, and it's going to start on the last day of MagFest. So if you see someone just giving thumbs up next to DSDAT, that'll be me. I at least want to check it out for a day, just to see like the opening day of the marathon, maybe. Thanks a lot for coming with me on my first episode of, I don't know if, I'm probably thinking of a funny name for this or something. Tom's Vlogs, vlogging up the toilet, or dropping a vlog. Dropping a vlog, that's what I'll call it. Thanks for joining me on the first episode of this. I wanted to make a video, just me kind of rambling about how much I love the GDQ events, and this one in particular, and I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you know, if you want to see more of these, just leave a comment, let me know how I'm doing, and I might try and make this a thing I do once a month or twice a month or something like that. But in any case, my voice is fucking dead. So I will catch you guys next time. Peace.